Okay, so picture this. You walk into family court thinking you're going to have a rational conversation about what's best for your kids, right? Maybe the judge will see that you're the one who's been doing bedtime stories and packing lunches and showing up to every soccer game.
And instead, you discover you've accidentally entered some kind of legal thunderdome where logic goes to die, and whoever has the better lawyer gets to rewrite reality.
Best interest of the child. You know what I thought? I actually thought that meant who loves this kid, who gets them ready for, who's there every morning getting them dressed, making sure they eat breakfast, who knows they won't eat broccoli unless there's cheese on it. But I was completely wrong. It's about who can afford, it's about money. Who can afford the better lawyer? It's about who can sit there and stay calm while they're literally trying to steal your children. And if you get upset, if you dare to care about this, then you're the problem. You're the one who's high conflict. So let me get this straight. Someone's trying to take my kids and I'm supposed to smile about it? I'm supposed to be okay with? No, absolutely not.
I learned this fun fact. 89% of parents in custody battles report feeling like nothing they do is right, which makes sense because they've literally designed a system where every response gets you in trouble. Very efficient, actually.
Right? If you cry, you're too emotional. If you don't cry, you're cold. If you get therapy for postpartum depression, you're unstable. If you don't get therapy, you're neglecting your mental health. It's like they copied the playbook from abusive relationships and made it, well, legal.
Which brings us to why we're here. I'm Jake. My ex had an affair, convinced our kids I was the problem, and now I pay child support to fund her boyfriend's lifestyle. It's been educational.
And I'm Grace. I had a baby with someone I barely knew. We actually became friends and co-parented well for 2 years. And then he decided to weaponize my postpartum anxiety against me and claim I'm an unfit mother. Plot twist, I met this delightful pessimist in the courthouse lobby during my lowest moment.
She was crying in the hallway after a particularly brutal hearing. I offered her my coffee and said, "The good news is, it can't get much worse than this." I was wrong, but the coffee was excellent.
That's when we realized we're not alone in this nightmare, and we're definitely not crazy. So welcome to Trauma Blended, where we blend brutal honesty with actual research to help you survive family court hell.
Fair warning, we're going to tell you things that will make you angry, but we're also going to give you tools that actually work. And occasionally we'll make you laugh so you don't completely lose your mind.
So let's start with how we ended up here, because our origin story is basically trauma bonding the romantic comedy nobody asked for. But first, let me tell you about the specific hell that is fighting for custody of a child with someone you barely know.
Picture the most depressing waiting room you've ever seen. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs that haven't been updated since 1987, and the unmistakable smell of broken dreams and industrial-strength disinfectant.
I'm sitting there with a binder because I was that parent who thought organization would save me, full of every text message, every missed pickup, every doctor's appointment this guy skipped, 3 inches thick.
Meanwhile, I'm reading the same custody order for the 15th time, trying to figure out how reasonable visitation somehow means whenever your ex feels like letting you see your own children.
So get this, here's what nobody tells you about custody battles with someone you thought was your friend. We co-parented really well for 2 years, had a good system going, and then suddenly he decides my postpartum anxiety makes me unfit and files for full custody.
Which is fascinating because research shows that 42.6% of single mothers have never been married and 27% of fathers completely abandon their children after separation, but somehow the ones who show up later think they deserve equal time.
So I've just come out of this hearing where they basically told me that seeking help for postpartum anxiety was evidence of mental instability, right? Even though I'd been in therapy for 3 months, was on medication, and hadn't missed a single appointment. All while dealing with the trauma of discovering my baby daddy had lied about being single.
Which is hilarious because the research shows that proactive mental health treatment actually improves custody outcomes, but family court operates on feelings, not facts, especially when the father suddenly decides he wants custody of a kid who initially wanted nothing to do with.
I'm in the hallway ugly crying because I just realized that everything I thought would help me, being responsible, seeking treatment, documenting everything, was actually being used against me by someone I trusted, who I thought was my friend and co-parenting partner.
And I see this woman having what I recognize as the family court reality check meltdown, where you realize the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, just not for you.
So this stranger walks up to me with courthouse coffee, which is somehow worse than hospital coffee, and says the most comforting thing anyone had said to me in months.
The good news is, statistically speaking, this experience can't get much worse. Not my best pickup line, but it was accurate.
And then he sits down and starts explaining parental alienation tactics like he's teaching a masterclass. I'm thinking, finally, someone who speaks this horrible language. Plus, he actually knew what it was like to deal with someone who turns on you when you're most vulnerable.
She had this binder that was basically a PhD thesis in family dysfunction. Color-coded tabs, cross-referenced timelines. I was impressed.
Turns out, we'd been dealing with the same garbage from opposite sides. His ex was using the kids as weapons after her affair. My co-parent was using my mental health journey as ammunition after years of friendship.
Different types of deception, same playbook. We spent 3 hours in that hallway comparing war stories and realized something important. Neither of us was crazy. The system really is this messed up, and it's designed to make you think you're the problem.
Which brings us to the most important thing we want you to understand right away. You're not imagining this. The bias is real, the system is rigged, and we have the receipts.
Here's a fun statistic. When fathers actually fight for custody in court, they win 72% of the time. Abusive fathers specifically win their cases 72% of the time. But somehow we keep hearing about how the system favors mothers.
And here's the kicker. Women are twice as likely to lose custody when they report abuse, even when it's documented. So if you try to protect your kids, you get punished. If you don't report abuse, you're blamed for not protecting them. Meanwhile, only 18.3% of fathers are granted custody overall, but when they fight for it, they almost always win.
It gets better. The high conflict label gets applied to the parent asking about safety issues 73% more often than the parent actually causing the problems. So advocating for your children has been criminalized.
And let's talk about single mothers specifically. About 80.4% of custodial parents are mothers. But here's what they don't tell you. In 51% of cases, both parents agree the mother should have custody. In 29% of cases, they decide without court involvement at all. Only 4% actually go to trial.
Which means when you see that 80% statistic, you're not seeing bias. You're seeing fathers who don't want custody until suddenly they do, usually when it benefits them financially or emotionally.
And the financial trap. Average custody battle costs $25,000. High conflict cases can cost even more. The system literally profits from conflict. The longer your case drags on, the more money everyone makes except you.
I've spent $18,000 so far. My lawyer drives a BMW. I drive a Honda with no air conditioning. There's definitely a correlation there.
But here's what gets me. Single mothers have a median household income of $26,000 compared to $40,000 for single fathers. Yet we're expected to fight these battles against people who often show up with resources after contributing nothing to raising the child.
Which is why we're here. Not to complain, we'll do plenty of that, but to give you actual tools based on what works in the real world, not what should work in a perfect world.
Because here's what they don't want you to know. Parents who prepare financially and emotionally before filing have significantly better outcomes. It's not about having more money. It's about being strategic.
The gaslighting is so consistent, we could write bingo cards. You're being too emotional. You need to just move on. Think about what's best for the children. As if fighting for your kids isn't exactly that.
Speaking of documentation, and this is crucial, you need to start documenting everything immediately. I mean, everything. Every missed call, every late pickup, every weird thing your kid says after visitation. If it happened and you didn't document it, it didn't happen in court.
Use a composition book, not spiral, because pages can be torn out. Write in pen, not pencil. Date and time everything. If you make a mistake, draw a line through it and initial it. Don't use whiteout.
Screenshot everything digital. Text messages, social media posts, emails, even if they seem harmless now, people's online behavior reveals patterns that become important later, and back up everything to cloud storage your ex can't access.
Document the good stuff too. Every successful co-parenting interaction, every time they follow the court order, every positive conversation. It shows you're trying to work together, not just complaining.
And never, ever communicate anger in writing. That text you want to send telling them exactly what you think, don't. They screenshot everything and use it as evidence of your volatile nature.
Use what I call the boss email test. If you wouldn't send it to your manager at work, don't send it to your ex. Your boss probably isn't trying to steal your children, but similar professional standards apply.
Now, let's talk about something really important: the mental health impact of this process. Because the research on this is absolutely terrifying and validating at the same time.
Master the phrase, "I'm concerned about the children's best interests." Use it constantly. It's like a magic spell. You can't be high conflict if you're just concerned about the kids.
Use those parenting apps. Our Family Wizard, App Close. They create a documented record and force everyone to be civil. Courts love them because they can see exactly who's being unreasonable.
Studies show that 46% of children in high-conflict divorces are at increased risk for developing PTSD, almost half. And parents in these situations develop trauma symptoms at rates comparable to combat veterans.
Your trauma response to this system is medically valid. You're not overreacting. When the research shows that family court causes actual PTSD, maybe the problem isn't your emotional response.
The beautiful irony is that seeking help for that trauma can be weaponized against you, but not seeking help can also be used against you. It's almost like they designed it to be impossible.
But here's what we've learned. If you're strategic about mental health treatment, it can actually help your case. Find a therapist who understands family court dynamics. Ask specifically, have you worked with parents in custody battles before?
Focus your therapy discussions on coping strategies and stress management, not venting about your ex. Your therapy notes can become evidence, so be strategic about what you discuss.
Get a psychiatric evaluation if you're dealing with mental health accusations. Sounds counterintuitive, but a professional evaluation showing you're stable and getting appropriate treatment is powerful evidence.
Document your functioning. Photos of you at school events, evidence of maintaining employment, records of paying bills on time. Show that despite the stress, you're still a capable parent.
So, here's what you can expect from Trauma Blended every week: brutal honesty, actual research, and strategies that don't require you to be perfect to work.
We're not going to tell you to take the high road while your ex burns down your relationship with your kids. We're going to tell you how to document the arson and present it in court.
Every episode will break down the latest research, and I mean real research from actual universities and courts, not some lawyer's blog post, and translate it into survival strategies.
We'll cover everything: how to communicate without giving them ammunition, what documentation actually matters, how to handle false allegations, and why therapy can be both helpful and dangerous.
Plus, we're going to tell you about the stuff nobody warns you about, like how seeking help for postpartum depression can be weaponized, or how parental alienation claims are used against protective parents 78% of the time. Most importantly,
We're building a community of people who get it, who understand that just focus on the kids isn't helpful advice when the system punishes you for trying to protect them.
Every parent we meet says the same thing. I thought I was the only one going through this. The shame and secrecy keep people silent, which keeps the system broken.
But you're not alone. There are millions of parents being gaslit by family court right now. Parents who've been labeled high conflict for asking why their ex doesn't follow court orders. Single mothers fighting custody battles with people who used to be their friends. Parents who've been told they're alienating their children by having their children live with them. Parents who've lost custody for seeking mental health treatment. It's not just you. You can talk about how exhausting it is to document every single interaction because you know it might end up as evidence. How draining it is to be hypervigilant about every text message, every email, every conversation.
And we'll celebrate your wins with you. Every successful hearing, every time you don't take the bait, every small victory that keeps you going.
All right, that's your introduction to our particular brand of chaos. Next week, we're diving deep into the money trap, how family court empties your bank account with actual strategies to protect yourself financially.
We'll break down asset protection, legal budgeting, and how to avoid the financial manipulation tactics that can destroy your case before it starts. Plus, the real costs nobody warns you about. And remember, if you're just starting this journey, document everything. Communicate through apps and trust your instincts. If it feels manipulative, it probably is.
Most importantly, you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and you're not alone. The system really is this messed up, and we're here to help you navigate it with your sanity intact.
Until next time, this has been Trauma Blended, where we turn family court trauma into survival wisdom. Because if we're going through hell, we might as well learn something useful.